Everyone always makes
Okay,
weird faces.
we're live.
Oh, welcome to Lightworker Seeker to Success. I am Amanda, the host for today. I have Adam Shaskovsky here, energy healer, twin flame, and cryptocurrency broker. We have Colette Gallagher here. She is expert in relationship. She's a life coach for relationships, and she's an Access Bars facilitator and practitioner.
Hi,
And
everyone.
and we have Eva here, and we're so excited to have Eva join our show today. She is another author in energy healing and soul medicine. So we invited her to come on today to tell us about her chapter, tell us what lights her up and brings her joy. And we're just excited to have you here with us today. Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of energy healing you do.
Is there a limit? So
no.
It's like once you go into this little cave, it turns into this huge, expansive cavern. You think you know something, and then no, there's more.
There's more.
And that's been my experience. It started with just simply and recognizing that I was sensitive to energies of other people and the planet. I've had this wonderful gift of being able to read the writing on the wall for what's going to happen. And everybody's like, how did you know that? I don't know. It's a gift, I guess. So the kinds of energy healing, they range from, first of all, I'm also a practitioner in the biological world. So I get to work with people on a very physical level, all the way into the emotional space, wounding and relationshiping, and what we do to each other is just crazy. Not just in this lifetime, but previous enactments, whatever you want to call them. And then, the Akashic records and all of these things that press upon a person during a lifetime, including demonics, from elementals to all levels of attachments. I handled that.
Yeah. I do that too, and I love how you just say it so like nicely, because people ask me like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, just book a session." We do it all, right? It's like so much. Like I don't even know how to.
Well, and that's the thing, is you want to be able to handle a person not by what they think they need to fix. It's very much like chasing down symptoms in the physical body. You don't want to necessarily be working on the thing that is most vocal with its complaints, because that most likely is not the real problem. And so you need a practitioner who is well ranged. Yeah,
for sure. So do you have, what kind of practitioner are you?
I have I could fill the wall behind me with all of the certifications, right? That's kind of how it goes. But
what's your favorite one?
Yeah, Libra. So, the very first foundational piece that I have is the mineral balancing science. And so that's number one. And then it goes into Ensophic Ray Reiki, and then it goes into Akashic record reading, and then it goes into sacred geometry and Egyptian healings. I mean, it's a long list. So, and then there's the stuff that there are no certifications for, like what the angels taught me. There's nothing, you can't put that in a frame. I mean, you can, but
you can make your own certification.
Yeah.
I just had a question. So when you're doing a session with somebody, do you pull in all the tools from everything, and it's in that one session?
It depends on what the focus is and what the magic is. And so if I'm doing, let's say, a divinity code activation, that's specific magic, and I'm using a real magic wand, not this is a pen, but a real magic wand. And so you don't want to, whatever the magic is, you keep it pure to the focus. But when I'm doing something like what I call a restore session, maybe somebody is having problems with physical symptoms, but we've touched on their physical issues, and we realize this really isn't something that it seems like there should be something more happening here. And so here, I'll back up a second. Did you know that demonic possessions have the same symptoms as the mineral imbalance in the body?
Interesting. I think I've had that download before, so tell us a little bit more about that.
So when a person, Basically, it's what anything that affects that human body is going to cause a symptom. And that's why chasing symptoms is playing whack-a-mole with your symptom. You could hit it down, but then something else is going to pop back up. And so you don't know what chasing a symptom is going to actually create. So it's best to do a holistic approach. And that means starting with the physical body so that it can contain a healing presence while you are holding the energetic flow for healing. And then you get into the space of, do I have anything else, like attachments from, can I just tell you how many dead family members like to attach themselves to people to try to finish their contract with God? It's insane.
Yeah, exactly. They try to go along with for the free ride.
Well, they want to complete their work, and they don't know that they're hurting the now, live person, and their body starts to deteriorate. And so we want to restore that. They also don't belong on this energy plane. So people need to go to wherever they're supposed to go. They shouldn't be hanging out here. So if you have ghosts, if you have, recordings, whatever's going on, you need somebody like us to come in and clean it up.
Yeah. Do you feel like when somebody has like not just demons or negative entities attached to them, but like family members and ancestors, do you feel like that ages the person like even more because they're holding on to like so much?
There's almost no choice in it. Anything. And I mean, that could be a toxic metal, it could be an imbalance in nutrition, it could be viruses, any of those things, including ancestral inheritances and wounds, things that they're not part of your sovereignty. So anything that cuts you off from your sovereignty is going to prematurely age you.
Now, is the main thing that they're holding on to is because we're more dense, and so they're able to hold on to us as we ascend and become more light bodies? It's harder for them to hold on to that.
Well, I have a little bit of a distinction there that I'd love to make, and that's that the human consciousness, as we're coming into this 3D body, once we let go of the human body, we still have a soul and a soul body, right? So the soul body is the part that's supposed to go up into whatever dimension. In my world, it's the 7th dimension of heaven, right? And so if a person decides to leave the body, they don't necessarily become a light body. That might be just a definition that's different between your language and what I'm talking about. But then once they leave this physical body, they're not a light body, they're a soul. So a piece of the soul can't complete things as easily. Like I can pick up this mouse because I've got a nice 3D body. That makes completing my contract with God super easy. But as soon as I lose all of this, it's a lot harder to complete our contracts. And we don't get to complete them in next life. It's complete them now before you get your next life.
So why do you think people leave before they complete their purpose, right? If they came here for a purpose, and I've heard people say like we get to choose when we leave, why would they leave before?
Yeah, to a degree, you get to choose but you don't get to choose if you have an accident, and you don't get to choose if you get exposed to something that you wouldn't anticipate being exposed to before you became human. We have an awful lot of ways that we can destroy our physical body here on this planet. The number of toxins that we're exposed to all the time, and it's just getting worse because we love our conveniences. And so it prematurely ages us. All of those experiences do. And yeah, we're supposed to, before we come in, we kind of have a life expectancy according spiritually, but we don't know it here. And so we run out of time. And people will say this all the time: oh, I'll just do it next life.
Oh,
big mistake.
Big mistake, because then you can't do it. Okay. Well, yeah, I always wondered about that, because I'm like, if you're going to come back, why are you attaching yourself to somebody? Because I'm a caregiver for seniors, and I'm in the hospitals a lot, and there's a lot of entities there, and it's like, and when people go under for any kind of surgery or anything traumatic, right? I mean, they just kind of suck onto these people. And so it's like, wait, why are they still here? Why can't they just finish that in the next life? But I do know I've released a lot of people that said, or a lot of ghosts and entities and whatever, that were attached to people because they wanted to fulfill that purpose. But I always wondered, well, why? I mean, I thought there was still time for them, so there isn't. So, all right, so one shot each life. Okay,
but yeah, this is from ancient wisdom schools. It's not my idea that I downloaded these. This is something that I learned from various other practitioners that consider themselves masters on planet, that receive the information orally. So it's been an oral tradition passed on from person to person. Right? So.
Interesting.
So what happens if we don't complete our purpose and then we're gone?
Oh, my computer froze when you asked that wonderful question. So what happens is all I heard.
Oh yeah, what happens if we don't complete our purpose and then we leave without completing it?
You're still responsible for completing it. And that's why you have ancestors that are attaching themselves to now living relatives to try to complete it, because it's easier to use a body. So part of what I get to do when a person is a live person, such as you, like if you have ancestors and you're aware of, oh, I get to clear out, their old stuff, and I get to help them close out their cycle. No, you're wasting time for your own contract. Like, be focused. This is a real serious thing. So when I go into what I call a restore session, this is just a label that I give the complete package for a person who needs to clear entities and get rid of ancestral issues and whatever is going on in their home and with them personally. I do everything, including a soul retrieval, all at the same time, like under an hour. And so when I'm in there and I'm working with angels, I bring in the angels and I tell them, I want you to bring forward this ancestor that is currently pulling from our beautiful, live, lovely 3D person. And I want to talk to them. And I want you to bring them in and then give them whatever resources they need to complete their contract so that the lovely 3D person can be left in sovereignty. So that's part of a restore session. So by default, you have individuals that, because they're related, they think it's okay to pull from energy from a 3D person, but it's going to destroy them. First, that's how I found out, was my ex-husband passed away and he attached himself right here. And I could hear him. I didn't like hearing him in life. I did not want to hear from him in death. And so I recognized him and he was talking and talking and talking. And I said, oh, this is not okay. I need to go through the process of clearing this out. But he did not pass over to the other side. And that's when I learned I have the gift to be able to create that light. And then the angels were the ones that taught me how to remove the attachment. The attachment in this case was his soul, and not an entity. It was an actual human soul, and then clean that before sending it off into the seventh dimension. So this is part of my training that I received. And if that's not done, it can diminish greatly. My physical symptoms started to kick in, and I had higher anxiety. I could not sleep. I had troubles with emotional mood swings. A number of things that were going on physically with the body were worse as a result of him attaching himself.
And is
So I
that
have a
because,
question.
I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, I've got a question. So when I was 8, my grandfather had a massive heart attack at my parents' house at the time. And then, we rushed him to the hospital, but he was already dead. And from the time I was 8 until about 19 or 20, I would communicate through dreams and while I was sleeping with him, and he would tell me things that he felt he needed to tell me. And when I can't remember if I was 19 or 20, but right around that age, it was a really, really cold night and I was locked out of the house and I didn't know how I was going to get in. And I ended up getting into, through a window. And what I didn't know is that I actually broke the window because it was so cold. It was like -30. And when I broke the window, a piece of glass cut my arm really bad. And I didn't know I was bleeding. And I went in and I let my friend in because we were looking for a place to crash. It was like 2 in the morning. And I woke up at like 8 a.m. My mom's like like in panic. She's like, "Are you okay? There's blood everywhere." And it literally like dripped like all the way into my room. And I woke up and I had a towel wrapped around my arm that I know I didn't do. And but that was the last time that I ever had any kind of communication. And I just knew it was him that did it. Now that I can't see him or feel him or have any communication, does that mean now he maybe completed his life mission?
It could be. It could be that part of his life mission was to help you with a certain level of growth in your own life, but that's kind of codependent. So I'm not sure, but there's other possibilities too, where you kind of went out of your own consciousness and not remembered that doing it, but was inspired by his presence, right? Because that's a physical thing, right? You're getting something wrapped around your arm. That's very difficult for a soul to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just yeah, I used to, and there was things that he would tell me that I would tell my mom, especially when I was like a teenager, and there's no way that I could ever know it, except for that I would say, "Oh, Grandpa says this," and she'd look at me like, "How do you know that? Do you have regular conversations?" And I said, "Yes, we have regular conversations. He tells me a lot of things of." And she knows it's true because there's just no way that I would know. It was well before I was born. It's like when she was like 3 or 4 years old, right? So it's just like, so as you're saying that, I'm wondering like how that all kind of works. And now
Yeah.
that he's not there, I feel like, he's moved on, or like he's not
Well,
there.
he had moved on to the other side of the veil, because it doesn't sound like it was affecting your health, right? But you were able to communicate. And a lot of relatives have a very beautiful communication, whether it's telepathic or through dreams, or like, you had all of it. And these beautiful relationships where you can have, once they pass to the other side of the veil, as soon as we think of them or say their name, they can come back from the other side and be present with us. It's
Mhm.
that before that point in time where they haven't crossed over to complete their death experience, and the Merkaba has not made it to seventh dimension, that's when we have trouble with the physical body. But you can have really great conversation with people once they've passed for a long time. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amanda. I know you had a question.
I did, but now I'm thinking, what was my question? I can't remember what it was, because I was thinking about your thing, and like, did your grandfather attach himself to you, and that's why you couldn't see him anymore? Because now he's attached himself, and maybe that's why you never saw him again after that day.
I'm not sure.
So you don't have to give them permission to attach to you. Like these people could just
Well,
attach to you without your permission.
so you're especially people very close to you, they have the free will to cross over and follow the light, or not. Attaching to you is usually related to some sort of unhealed wound. So fear, shame, grief, anything that's a negative emotion can be the permission, if you will. And he and I had a tumultuous, I would say, toxic relationship, and I hadn't quite healed by the time he died. And so I would imagine, based on what I know about attachments and your question, that the unhealed wounds allowed for the attachment.
Okay, so it's kind of like you both had unfinished business with each other type of thing.
Oh yeah, because
Okay.
what started it was, or I should say, once I it's in the book, I talk about how I found out that he was attached to me. A confirmation was that I called my practitioner, who had a really good relationship with her guides. I hadn't yet built mine. My communication was not there. I didn't even know if I had guides. And so I called her up and I told her what was going on. I says, I think my ex has attached himself to my auric field. And she goes, oh, no. They move on. They got better things to do, that kind of thing. And I go, will you check anyway? And so she says, all right. She puts the phone down, and I hear her in the background, and she's communicating with her guides. And she goes, I hear her go, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, you know, so she comes back on the phone. Yeah, he's attached to you. And I says, how do I get rid of him? She goes, I don't know. I don't have that skill. So I was then led by spirit to just so happened to have some sort of metaphysical school fair happening that weekend. You know how it just so happens, right timing. And so I met with 3 different practitioners, one that read the Akashic record, 2 more that was doing other readings, and all 3 of them were like, yeah, you need a psychic surgeon. What's a psychic surgeon? Well, this is a psychic surgeon who helps with contracts. So to answer that question, that's a roundabout way, but we're getting there, is we had contracts and they had not been fulfilled over the millennia. We had so many contracts that when we were in the contract room and they were being delivered, all of the contracts were being delivered to us to review. It took a dump truck to deliver them. That's how many. And we still had 5 active ones. And so we had to go over each of the 5 different contracts. So it's a good sign. These are all part of troubleshooting. Where are you on your healing journey, and what could be in the way of you not getting a healing, even after going to a soul retrieval, even after getting your contracts read, even after going into seeing your Akashic records? There's probably something that you have to figure out. And this is, you know, my years of being an IT tech really come into handy here. Troubleshooting.
That's so funny, because it's like, oh, you better work it out with your ex. Don't leave anything unhandled, because they'll attach to you.
Yeah. If you have anything open, and that's why, like, if we're in a state of confusion, if we're like stuck in an armpit space and we're thinking, why am I here? I don't want to be here. I feel stuck. You're not at your destination yet. There's something more to clear. And that's when a guide can really help you discover. I live in LA, and everybody on the weekends likes to go to Vegas. And so I think of Barstow in the middle, the armpit that nobody wants to be stuck in, but it's really good to fill up on gas. You just don't want to stay there for very long. But people stay in this terrible place, metaphorically, you know, when they're not done with their journey. Take it all the way out to the end. You'll be a lot happier when you get to your destination.
Mm-hmm. When my grandpa was passing away, he was on hospice, and I was doing soul chats with him. And one of the things before, just to help him pass easier, he wanted forgiveness from my grandmother, and they had been divorced for, you know, a long time. And so I said, okay, yeah, let me talk to her. And, you know, she you know, they had some troubles in their marriage, and so she was not very nice to him. And I went and saw her, and I said, hey, so Grandpa's passing, and he wants to ask you for forgiveness, so, you know, it will help both of you guys so that he can move on. And she goes, what? No, I'm not forgiving him for anything. I said, okay, well, that's fine, Grandma, you don't have to forgive him, but just remember that if you don't, I said, you're going to have to do it again in the next lifetime, and you'll be married to him again. And she goes, oh, I forgive him. I forgive him for everything. And I said, oh, great. Thank you. Now he can pass in peace. I'm like, doesn't that feel so good? And she's like, yeah. And so anyway, but right there, she was just like, nope, I forgive him, because she didn't want to come back and do it again. So anyways, so I told him, I said, she's forgiven you. Now you can go in peace. You can transition in peace. And so, and he did. So it's funny how, you know, even, you know, when you're on that journey and you're about to transition, there are things that keep you here. And, you know, and as a caregiver, I do hospice all the time, and I work with people to say, okay, is there anything that we need to, you know, like heal or whatever? And there's things that I do to help people pass over so that they're not just lingering and, you know, making themselves suffer.
Yeah, and there's a lot less fear and a lot less anxiety over the end, the little pinch where, you know, we're removed from the physical body and go into a place that is, you know, that non-physical. We just don't remember what that was like before we got into our 3D body, because, you know, Joe Dispenza says it best, we drink the wine of forgetfulness, you know, and become a human. And we forget how wonderful it is on the other side. I think if we all remembered how wonderful it is on the other side, we wouldn't want to be here.
Exactly. I know you're right about that. I know you are right about that. That's for sure. Well, do you want to tell us a little bit about your chapter? And I read the first few pages and it was like so amazing. I was like, oh, this is so good. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about your story that's in the book.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a little bit with the passing of my ex, but what got me to that point was I was troubled with over 30 different symptoms of diagnosable but unsolvable physical problems. And you know that the invisible illnesses, chronic fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, depression, fibromyalgia, itchy skin, heart palpitations, short-term memory loss, you know, arthritis, all the things that don't put you in a wheelchair, but you definitely keep you from doing your full-time job very well anyways. And so I finally found the answer in mineral balancing, and then my ex passed away. We had been exes for 12 years. And I was not of the mind to be sharing this kind of stuff, let alone on a podcast, but in a book. So it was very private. My metaphysical experiences and learning and knowledge base started to grow and become a greater percentage of my practitioner stuff, and working with the physical body with people to heal them of their chronic illnesses became a much smaller portion of what took up my day-to-day mindset. So finally I started to roll them in and realize they were actually, it was necessary to start talking about it all. But yeah, the book describes the process of melding the two. So you have the physical practice of mineral balancing and how that supports the healing of the spiritual side. And what's going on the spiritual side is much more complex than we ever really, I mean, it continues to get freaky for me, even still and more today. And it just continues to grow and expand. And so there's no end in sight. But the chapter is full of stories of things. And if I were to write it again, I would have yet more to add. Not of the same stuff. I mean, I'm now working with dragons. Who, what are, So, this is now a part of my reality that I never even thought was going to be a thing. And they're not imaginary, and they're very much a real part of my family. And I consider them closer friends than any other individual on the planet.
Nice. How do you use the dragons? Because I know, like, I have different oracle cards, and so sometimes the dragons want to come out and they have a message for everybody.
Well, so they would take a great deal of what do I want to call it? They would be insulted by the how do I use them, because that was the very first thing that I said to my higher self. I'm like, what am I going to do with the dragon? They're like, oh, no. You don't do anything with a dragon. A dragon is the master magician. You are the apprentice. They chose you. It's the other way around. What do they do with you? And so I have these gifts that I've been working on. One is the creating of the light to heaven. That's a huge responsibility. And the other is this, there seems to be a past Akashic that I can't see a whole lot of it, but I can see the mass of it. If you like, I just don't see the details. But I've been working with them for many, 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 many lifetimes as I've been here, part of this collective journey. And what they have done in various different situations where I'm doing a restore session and maybe a soul retrieval is they'll help with timeline merges or soul merging, and bringing from a different timeline or going back into time. Time travel is so easy when you have a dragon. Can I just say that? It's so easy. They make magic easy. They were the first magic on the planet. They're the ones who taught Merlin.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, there's just I can't say enough, but I also have to not say too much. They're amazing beings that require you to be free from fear, free from, like, you can't be making decisions in your life from fear. You can't have shame and you can't have guilt. They don't have time for the human condition to sit there and have self-pity. They just don't.
How does one get a dragon?
What I just said, exactly that. So you work on your guilt, shame, and any fear. Once you get a handle on that, become fearful of fear itself, then that makes things a lot easier. And then any shame, don't let anybody place shame onto you, and make sure that you're not living in making decisions from a place of fear. These are huge. Then I would recommend a certain book that Mystical Dragon Magic by Conway is the last name, Mystical Dragon Magic. And in that book, you can divine yourself a relationship with a dragon, but just make sure you've handled the shame, the fear, and the guilt.
Say that book again, Mystical
Dragon Magic.
Nice.
Yeah, they're wonderful beings to work with. Just like angels are too, but
well, yeah, when I pull out that deck of dragons, I do feel their love. I feel their they want to help, and they want to help us clear the pathways to what we're supposed to be doing, and the obstacles that are keeping us from that, right?
Yeah, it's so much easier to get from plane of dimension to different plane of dimension if you have a dragon that is working with you, because they seamlessly just jump to where they need to go, and they're like, come on, let's go. Next thing you know, I see a tail coming at me, and I'm off on his back to go somewhere. So that's that's what it's like.
Nice. I love that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see that they made movies about it, like The Never Ending Story, and how mystical the dragons are. So I mean, that's the one thing with movies and entertainment, is they have to tell you exactly what it is, and we perceive it as, oh, that's just made up, that's not real. But a lot of it is real, what they're actually telling you. So that's really interesting about dragon. And I've always been drawn to dragons for some reason. I was born in the year of the dragon too. So I just have this deep connection. So as you're saying this, I'm just really resonating deeply with it.
Good. Yeah. It's lovely magic to learn. And as long as you stay dedicated to learning, they will teach you. The very first thing that they did, I have 4 that I work with regularly, but the main one that is my heart, I love him dearly. He immediately said, okay, you need to stop questioning what I'm telling you. I need the telepathy to be believed. I need you to hear me and believe me and know that what I'm saying is true. And so he was the one that told me, he says, I want you to go get this book, Mystical Dragon Magic, buy it. So I bought it and I'm reading it. And the very first thing that he give me is, in my mind's eye, he starts to give me, and I can see his claw coming towards me with this beautiful blue pendant dangling, and it's coming at me, from this direction, and he places it on my neck. This is all in my head, in my mind's eye. And so I'm opening the book for the first time and I'm reading it. And this is when you first connect with your dragon, you'll communicate telepathically, and he will give you, or she, depending on your sex, that it will be the opposite sex. He will give you a blue pendant. I damn near fell out of my chair. Wow. So, and then there was more. He goes, okay, I'm going to give you a few more things, and then I want you to jump to the other sections in the book, and I'll show you where to go in the book, and you're going to confirm what I'm telling you is true, and then don't ever question me. That's how that's how very strong they are.
Well, so then in the movie The Avatar, I mean, in Avatar, they, go through this training where they've got to, wrestle this winged creature, and then they've got to connect their tail with them, and then they can fly around. Is it that kind of thing that you're almost basically doing at that point?
You're definitely training. And the first thing after you're introduced to the dragon that you are to be with, you go into a very intricate contract. And so I found myself in a very big cave with huge elder dragons and a contract. And they were like, here, sign here. Okay, I'll sign. Yes, that's good. All right. And then from there, it was introductions, and it was, you have a life contract with now these beings that are a part of you. And you're a part of them.
And the reason that we can't physically see them in this dimension is because they're more light beings, correct? And they're more in a different dimensional frequency.
Well, yes, and imagine that Lord of the Rings is real. Let's just imagine that it's real. Where did all of the elves go, right? The elvens, they went to the other world, right? Well, that's where all of the elementals went. They went there. And so dragons are a part of that world over there. Why? Because we're killing them over here. We're like, ooh, dragon hunters, let's kill all the dragons. Why would they stay?
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
They need to
Wow,
protect you.
that's fascinating.
Well, Adam, I think that you have a connection with dragons, being born in the year of the dragon, and also being Adam's sometime is referred to as the magic man, and also he has some Native American bloodline, and we went to a sacred naming ceremony, and his spirit name is Strong Sky Man.
Oh,
So that would make sense to be with the dragon doing that. Or I was thinking an eagle, but you know, whatever. So yeah, sounds like some confirmation for Adam in this interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
You've always
cool.
had a connection
I'm
with.
just fascinated by this. I got to read that book. I got to get that book.
I
as
know.
soon as-
I was thinking that too. We gotta get that book and read it. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Wow. I mean, I'm just like, oh, now I'm just thinking about dragons, and I haven't had any dragon messages lately, which is pretty ironic because normally I get them, you know, pretty frequently, but I haven't had them for quite a while. So they've been kind of quiet lately in my own like personal, you know, personal healings right now.
I think
Wow.
they tend to go through cycles of being around. I always feel them around. They're always ever present. If I call a name, they're right there, or if they need me, I'm right here. But really, it's more when you are ready to learn something new, then they'll activate again. And so sometimes it's just a request. Okay, what can I do to bring more of this magic that you have into my world for, and then give it a reason, and they'll show you, they'll tell you.
I like that.
So I'm not at all familiar with the mineral balancing. Is that something you do remotely, or is that in person? Is that something people take physically? Like, what is it?
It is the way to balance the body and fortify it so that we can get rid of all the toxins we're exposed to. And a lot of people will chase after the latest trend, the latest fad diet, right? What supplement is new on the market? And I take the guesswork out of all of that. So yes, it's remote. I have clients from Peru to Dubai. They send their hair. Mineral balancing is based on a hair sample, and it goes to a specific lab that then I can take the results and make sense of it. So you don't sit there going, why do I have all of these symptoms? I can show you why. And it's stuff that does not show up on your blood. Like you test your blood. Why don't you test your hair? Because we don't know about it. And these are the ways to know how your body metabolizes. Are you getting enough energy to create better quality cells, or are you not eating the right kinds of foods that will get rid of toxic metals for you automatically? Like doing this work, mineral balancing negates the need for flushes, cleanses, and anything having to do with chelation therapy. It's huge.
Okay, so someone sends in a hair sample, it gets analyzed, then you give them like a diet, or
I actually will audit the supplements they're currently taking and say that one's good, but it's not good for you right now, so shelve it. And here are some other ones that you want to take. So it's supplements, it's water, how much, what kind, and when. Those things all matter. Rest, like we're looking at habits during the day. How do you conduct yourself? Are you so exhausted that you can't fall asleep at night and getting a good night's sleep? A lot of people don't realize you need energy in order to sleep. So being exhausted at the end of the day is not necessarily a good thing. And then foods. And so I'll go through and audit the food intake, get rid of the things that are immediately, I can see red flag. Let's get rid of those. And then we go around. This is a long time effort. It's not something we can do in a weekend or a 2-hour call. And so we'll go through and detox the home. We'll look at cleaning supplies, personal care products, even makeup. I had to change all of this stuff for myself. Why wouldn't you? How we cook. you know, how we set our air conditioning settings in the car so that we're not breathing in somebody else's exhaust. All of this stuff matters, and it's cumulative. So it's done remotely. It's an education system. It's meant to raise awareness, and you get to make the choices for your highest good along the way. And love, I call it loving your future self.
Do you ever do classes, like group classes, where you kind of teach us stuff and you know, I mean, without the hair sample, but like,
Yeah, that's a great idea. You're the second person this month that suggested I do something like that. So, I mean, hint, I do offer a class called Defense Against the Dark Arts, where I talk about things like, you know, how to get rid of attachments and bring in your dragon and things like that. But no, I don't teach it. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll add something.
Yeah, I'm just thinking because here's the thing. I've been teaching that for a long time, like toxic products, and I don't, you know, there's certain things I don't use and won't use, and certain things I can put in my body and certain things I can't. I mean, there's just, I'm very sensitive to everything, even foods. So I've cut out a lot of different foods that my body doesn't like. And so but there's so many people that just are not in that awareness, and they just don't know. I mean, it's not like you and I, where we had to kind of like bump our heads a few times, like, oh gosh, like, okay, I'm gonna take this out and that out. But for people who are still kind of stuck in that medicinal world, you know, like how to really teach them, like, hey, listen, you know. And I feel like the water does matter. I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah,
water does matter. I talk about keeping it. I have articles about that. It's like, keep it simple, keep it cheap. You know, just get either spring water or carbon filtered water. Get rid of the fluoride if you can, but like, stay away from all of the stuff that has additives in it. You just don't need it. It's expensive. It's a waste of money and time. But yeah, there's a science behind each of it, and we can actually see what's helping your body through the mineral testing. You know, you're testing your hair, so we can see if your habits that you're so clinging to, but I spent so much money on these supplements, they must be good. Well, put your money where your mouth is. We'll check out your hair and see what your body's doing with those very fancy, very high cost supplements, and see if they're working. And if they're not, it's amazing how many people are still attached to, like, it's really hard to change somebody's opinion with facts. It's interesting to me. It really is.
it becomes like an addiction, right? So it's like what they think. It's like, well, someone told me this works, so I believe that, right? So it's like trying to break that addiction from that. And, you know.
Well, and they learned it from somebody who loves them. And so they attach but they love me. Why would they lie to me? They didn't lie to you. They just had misinformation. Different. It's different.
Yeah, for sure. So if someone went through this process with you, just if they said, hey, I just want to know, like, what my hair is saying and the minerals that I'm deficient in, like, what would that look like? I mean, or how much would a session be?
It's not a single session. I discovered that the information is time sensitive. So I would much rather not have somebody waste their money on a test just for curiosity's sake, unless they're willing to take some steps to move forward with it. So I have programs that last, you know, starting from 4 months all the way to a full year, depending on how much Eva time do you want? Because I can share a lot of information, but you know what, when it comes down, like, a lot of stuff is in the books. I have another book called Owning Your Beauty. It talks about my two-pronged approach of getting rid of physical symptoms versus going into the med spa to try to fix, you know, stuff that wasn't looking right anymore. So turns out they're one and the same. You get your minerals right, your body looks good. So where was I going with this?
So you have programs like 4
yes,
months
I have
programs. Okay.
So it's about the how to apply the information, like you're talking about the training that you give about toxins, and, you know, how to avoid the absorption of them, because your body doesn't have a doorman. There's nobody checking IDs at the mouth, right? Everything goes in, whatever that food is made of, whatever is in the water. It's a big party. Everything goes in, whatever you eat, you drink, you breathe, whatever sits against your skin all day long that doesn't wash out in the rinse. So that's a lot of chemicals. So all of that goes in, it makes more you. And if you don't have the right level of preferred minerals in the summation of what you took in that day, your body will choose a substitution, much like you have to do when you're creating grandma's favorite recipe from years ago. And you're like, oh, but I don't have lard.
Yeah,
anymore.
I was gonna say learn to.
Butter, right?
Yeah.
So you replace it, right? The body does the same thing, but it doesn't choose a like kind. It chooses a lesser quality toxic metal. And those are prolific. They're so in high abundance in our environment that the body's like, well, I guess I have no choice. It's the same way if your car pops a tire, you got to put the spare tire on the car. So don't go chelating that stuff out. Otherwise, you're running around on rims, and that's not healthy either, metaphorically speaking. So the idea is give the body what it needs so that it can heal itself. And this process starts that. And so there's kind of no need, there's no purpose in finding out what's going on if you're not going to do something with the information.
Well, I love that because Adam and I, our long-term vision is opening up a holistic healing center. And it hasn't happened yet because there's still information that we need to know before we can do that. Because we want to heal people, mind, body, and soul. We don't want to just, my passion is working with, the interrelate. And I want to help people. My passion is working with people in addiction. And you can't just, say, oh, we'll go to treatment. And then when you go to treatment, you get out in 30 days and you're all better. Is like, it doesn't work that way, So, so that's been my quest. And I know there's more, and I know it has to do with diet and minerals and things like that you're deficient in. And of course, other traumas and things like that.
Well, traumas are held in the body. So you can have an emotional trauma, even if it's something that was passed to you, mother to child in the womb. That trauma is held in place by, guess what? Toxic metals. And so people, that's the first thing they do is go, oh my God, I got to go find chelation therapy. No, don't do that. Don't run your car on its rims. Like really, this is the safe and natural and easy way to solve that issue. And so when you get rid of toxic metals, I can see it on their hair tests. I can see when they're getting rid of it. We're processing, and I go, what's going on? And they're telling me about some childhood wound. They're like, I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I got to work through this thing. Okay, let's clear it.
Well, and then also the subconscious also protects you sometimes from those traumatic things. So like when you do go to a traditional, treatment center, if they're saying, oh yeah, you're all better because we talked about all your traumas. Well, if you have stuff locked away and you don't consciously remember, then you didn't, you haven't.
There's magic for that. And I do this. People carry around a lot of anger because they're unresolved pain from physical hurt, or physical, emotional, mental hurt. And sometimes it's even spiritual. And so I have what they're called healing rites in the sacred geometry work. And basically I go through some Sanskrit. It takes about 30 minutes and I clear out all wounds from the past and all wounds that would be in the future. Like it's crazy how it works. You wake up and you go, I feel different.
Yeah. I love that.
Magic.
Magic. Now, do you have cards that do that, or what is that? Because I know I have, I love the sacred geometry, and I do have some cards that are they have sacred geometry on there. But anyways,
I don't have the crystals up here with me, but no, these are, so it's an in-person modality, and I have a collection of in-person modalities that I put together in what I call the VIP experience, and it's meant to expand and elevate your consciousness. And so now I offer that as a package deal because I kept thinking, well, I've got these activations, I have these healing rites, I have all of this Reiki stuff that gets rid of pain, and like there's a whole nother conversation about how Tesla came into my experience. Is like, when you're working on Reiki, I need you to use oh God, okay, that's a whole nother thing. So there's all of these beautiful in-person modalities that people who live in Peru to Dubai, they'd have to either fly in to come see me to have a 4-day intensive, or get onto one of my like I just finished a retreat in Belize. I have another one coming up next year in Alaska on a cruise ship. So people will have the opportunity to take advantage of all these healing rites and these rituals there in one place, because there's so much that can be done to clear the junk from our past and clear the way for the train of our future, so that we're not stumbling over ourselves trying to get things done that we could do them. Yeah,
I love that. Do you do things locally too, like where you live? Do you do classes there?
Well, I'll teach classes, but on a Zoom, like amphitheater. Is that right? Yeah. So you
do it on Zoom.
Yeah, it's not on Zoom. I use Teams, which is similar.
Teams. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic way to bring in a group of people and speak to them without having to have them fly in and have a conversation for an hour or two. But yeah, no local events in a physical place unless we do a retreat.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. Did you say you're in California?
I'm in Los Angeles currently. That's where I base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Colette is in San Diego, so she's
very close.
Very close, closer than me. I'm in Seattle.
So before we wrap up, I just had a quick question about, like, I'm sure you worked with so many people. Like, do you have any like favorite client success stories or something that you just like to love to share because like people can relate to it so well, of how you transformed somebody or few people or something like that?
Well, it's funny. I had a person who came to me because I had just met her in a networking group, and she said a few things. You know, my IT mind was troubleshooting right away, and I go, you know, it sounds like you might have some elementals and maybe even some portals open in your house. And she kind of looked at me funny, and then she's like, I think you're right. And so we did a clearing of her house and found all kinds of crazy things. But she says, when I first bought the house, I felt like a renter. I felt like it belonged to somebody else. And my children felt scared in their own bedrooms. They didn't feel safe. And certain parts of the house, it just felt like there were echoes. And so I tuned into all of these things with her. We just got on the phone about an hour long, and we cleared and found out what the history was. People doing rituals, people tying up, or I should say, locking up a child in a room. We found out what that was. I go, hey, is there if we go into your bedroom, is there a mirror on your bedroom's bathroom door? And she goes, yeah, how'd you know that? And I go, well, I'm seeing in my mind's eye a child sitting by himself in a room, like where your dressing room is now, but that this room used to be. And she says, yeah, it did used to be a separate room, and we made it into a dressing room. Okay, so we figured out what that history was. So afterward, again, only an hour on the phone, and she comes back, she goes, after a night, I feel safe in my own home, and this now finally feels like my own home. So that's a huge story for her in home space. There were lots of chaos, lots of problems were going on in the house because of the portals. She's had portals in the kitchen. We closed all of that down. And then it was 6 months later, she says, I'm having problems. I was hoping that was causing my physical symptoms. And she started with me on doing the mineral balancing work. And she had had chronic pain in her body, cysts and things on her spine, things that were not, medicine wasn't able to give her any relief from. And within a short period of time, we got rid of 90% of her pain, and the cysts that were growing that the doctors could not repair or physically remove with surgery started to diminish. And that's just a portion of her physical story. But I would say that's life-changing, all of it.
And that was to your mineral rebalance that you were able to help her with the cysts and everything. Because I know cysts are a big problem for a lot of people, and even dogs. Yeah, I feel like most older dogs, if you don't feed them holistic food, they get cysts.
A lot of it has to do with an imbalance of zinc to copper in the body. And that a lot of people hear that and they go, oh, I should take more zinc and more copper. Don't do that. Don't do that. Taking too much without testing your hair to find out exactly what your body needs can actually cause greater problems. You think you're in pain now, just wait until you mess with zinc. Yeah. So.
What happens if you don't have hair, like me?
You got hair here, honey.
Yeah, I was thinking, can I take it from there? Yes, okay.
And,
I was wondering
we can go south if for some reason you stop being able to grow hair here.
Okay. Okay.
Chest hair.
Yeah, chest hair. And we're not pulling. I saw the motion. We're just cutting. Right? So we just use scissors and cut I don't have any up here to help you out. But anyways, yeah. I used to work in construction, and I've heard it all. I do this. I've heard this so many times. What if you don't have any hair, Eva? You got hair somewhere.
somewhere.
Okay. Leg hairs also work too. I get a little bit of leg hair.
There is a good, better, best to it all. Anything from the chin, beard hair, and head hair. Those are the primary best. We can go to chest, we can go to back, but it's like, how long has that length of hair been there? So
Yeah.
it's like you want fresh growth. So I would say if you're targeting one part of your body, you're like, I'm going to grow this hair for a mineral balancing test, shave it, and then let it grow new so that we know that that's brand new information.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
What about if you get your hair colored? Does that matter?
I have had to color my hair since I was 20 because I went gray early from thyroid problems, and nobody told me that that was a problem. Like they were related. Even the eyebrows not growing all the way to the corner, like you're supposed to be able to draw a line from here to right.
Really?
So they now grow. You can see them, but for a long time they didn't, and that was thyroid related.
Oh,
Okay,
I
so
don't think my eyebrows grow.
it's a lot of people have thyroid dysfunction because of that copper to zinc imbalance, as mentioned. But yeah, I color my hair. You just have to wait about 4 washes before you cut the hair sample, and then it can be analyzed just fine.
All right.
I know you say copper to zinc a lot, and I know like the latest talk, well, at least it's not latest, but I mean you hear a lot more about it anyways, is drinking from a copper cup or like a copper water bottle. The only problem that I have with that is that it tastes really like tinny almost, like it's hard to kind of swallow that water.
Yeah, don't. That would be a fad. I would call that a fad.
Okay.
Because the problem isn't not having enough copper. You get copper from meat, you get copper from nuts, you get copper from dark chocolate. Who isn't a chocoholic? So all of these copper resources will let you know that what's deficient in your diet is the zinc.
Okay.
So what happens is the zinc, if it's not present in the body, in your diet, I should say, then what happens is the copper goes, where's my best pal? Where's my zinc? And if it doesn't find it where it needs to in order to process and create, good quality cells, especially when it comes to elasticity of your skin and the elasticity and flexibility of all of your veins, all of that, and your thyroid specifically, which controls your heat and also your sexual drive, all of these things come down to the zinc balance ratio. So if the copper's out there is going, hey, where's my zinc? I don't find him. I guess I'm going to take my ball and go home. And it sits out in other organs causing inflammation. So you end up with a lot of copper. And this is back. I can back it up with medical information from these medical students going to medical school, and they're cutting on cadavers, and they're like, why are we finding so much copper in the heart, the kidneys, the liver, and especially with women in their uterus and reproductive organs? Because we don't have enough zinc in our diet in addition to other minerals.
So what do you have to do to get more zinc into your body then? Or how do you know how to balance that then?
With the hair test, we can find out exactly what your body needs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it like found in foods, or is it found in like supplements that you need to take?
Yes. Both.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That and managing your stress. You'd be amazed at how much the healing effort of the body is thwarted when we go into fear, guilt, shame, stress. Yeah.
Well, I know that it's on my mind, and I'm sure people watching this, they're probably going to ask this question. How much does it cost to get the hair sample?
Well, I'm not the lab, so I'm not doing the hair sample. I do the 4-month program. So I offer programs that are fully supported. I don't hold healing reaction answers over your head for an extra dime. So it's $750 to get started. Do the hair test itself. I do a nice long consultation. It's a VIP day, really. And we make a strategy forward from there, what to do, so that you're not left with a test that looks terrible and a list of supplements to take. No. This is what most practitioners do, though. They're like, okay, well, here's what your test looks like, and here's what you need to take by. Yeah. And people need their hand held a little bit more than that. And it's because this is new and different. Holistic healing is not the same as taking a prescription medication.
Cool. Yeah. I love that.
Sure. Well, thank you, Eva. Gosh, we had so much to think about, and I love your program. I'm thinking about it already, and I know there's a lot of other people that are going to benefit from that as well. And I'm always looking for, I don't want to say the newest and greatest, but the greatest.
Yeah.
The greatest information out there, right? That help people feel better.
It's the crazy thing that mineral balancing has been something, it's based on 50 years of research, which is longer than any vaccine has ever received. I'll just say that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
So
I love it.
we'll put all the details to find you if someone wants to take that hair sample and do that whole thing. And I think we've got all the details, so it'll be uploaded in the I don't know what it is, the bio or the intro or whatever it is. Just check below, and we'll be able to connect you with some people that might be interested.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you. And for everybody who decides that they want to take that offer, I have a free test that you could take online to see how well your body, the FICO score for your healing. Where are you? Yeah, it's called the EEQ. So it's the essential energy quotient, and you can answer some questions and find out where you fit on that result. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Very cool. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for another episode of Lightworker Seeker to Success. Please join us next Monday, and if you haven't already done so, like and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.